Some truly creepy things don't always have enough details for a full video, so today is a special day. It's the first episode of a new series about eerie and genuinely unsettling things from across the internet. You're on my channel, where I occasionally talk about real crimes and strange phenomena. If you enjoy this new format, please support it with a like, and let's dive into today's stories. First up is Utaho no Tatari, or in English, The Curse of Utaho. It's a relatively obscure Japanese indie horror game series created using the Wolf RPG editor. In the first part, you play as Aoi Toyama, a girl whose happy life shatters when she returns home one day to find her parents dead, her sister possessed by a mysterious red mask, and her grandmother turned into a monster. After this unsettling start, you spend the rest of the game exploring large, demon-infested houses, hotels, and shrines, following notes left by Aoi's sister, Utaho. Along the way, you uncover clues and encounter creepy creatures, all while being chased by a grotesque fleshy mannequin that looks anything but friendly. In the second part, you play as Shizune, a reporter investigating the mysterious disappearance of Aoi and Utaho. The game's realistic graphics, which contrast sharply with their 2D sprites, create a genuinely eerie atmosphere. In Japan, Utaho no Tatari has a significant fan base, but since the games were never translated into English, or any other language for that matter, they didn't gain the international attention that other similar projects have received. That changed a few years ago, when some users on Reddit wrote about a mysterious and deeply unsettling glitch. While exploring a shrine in the second part and wandering around it for a while, the game would randomly crash. A chaotic series of error messages would appear, blocking players from exiting the game. The screen would flash 4 times, and then, out of nowhere, an image of a dead woman would appear, accompanied by an equally horrifying sound. For those who encountered this glitch, it was, of course, deeply unnerving. Most assumed they had simply stumbled upon an enemy, patiently waiting for the game over screen to appear, but it never did. The game just froze, and the only way to escape was to close it and restart. According to those who experienced this, it was almost certainly a bug. Moreover, most people who tried to intentionally trigger the glitch failed, suggesting it was a random error that didn't occur in most cases. Other investigators of this mystery noted that the image of the dead woman doesn't appear anywhere else in the game. When you play a horror game, you expect creepy visuals to pop up from time to time. But this photograph shocked people for 2 reasons. First, it was an unexplained glitch. The eerie image was hidden within the error and clearly not meant to be found. Second, the image itself seemed too real to some, as if it were a photograph of an actual dead woman. So, what caused this bug? Why did this photograph appear after a series of errors, and how real was the image itself? If you encounter this bug, the error message on your screen will vary depending on your location. If you're outside Japan, you'll see a typical error screen, which might make you think it's just a glitch. However, if you change your Windows location to Japan, the game will still crash, but instead of a meaningless string of characters, the text will display properly. For most of us, this still looks like a standard error window, but if you can read Japanese, it's clearly not. The text contains typical error messages, but with some horrifying phrases mixed in. For example, one part reads, "Location data, Utaho no Tatari 2, hand severing, data corrupted. Possible reasons, please stop." This makes it seem like the bug wasn't a bug at all, but a deliberate horror element. In fact, this text is presented as an encounter between the current player character, Shizune, and an evil version of the previous game's protagonist, Utaho, who seems to have become possessed after disappearing at the end of the first game. Considering the first game starts with Utaho discovering her mother's headless body, including this image makes a lot of sense. It really does look like a severed head. In this context, it's clear the error message was intentional, and we should interpret it as either a demonic version of Utaho or a direct message from her. If you dig into the game files, you'll find the image is actually named Yabai. The word yabai can mean many things depending on the context, but here it translates to something like, "Oh my God." Apparently, the game's creator thought this image was particularly terrifying and decided it would be even scarier if included in this staged bug. In fact, he found the image so effective for his game that, despite some assumptions, this isn't the only time it appears. There's another entry in the game files. This time, a strange video featuring a Japanese man who appears to be standing alone, but at one point, as you can see, the same head briefly flashes on the screen. It's there for just a moment, but it's unmistakable. So now we know this so-called glitch was actually an Easter egg, designed to prank a few unsuspecting players. The game doesn't tell us where this image came from, whether it's real or if it's a fake. It's worth noting that this was a small, free indie game, not a studio project. It's entirely possible the creator included this disturbing photograph of a real body, either to create shock for his own amusement, or simply because it was the only thing he had on hand during development. This leaves one question. Is the photo real? A reverse image search turned up nothing, so there was only one way to find out for sure. I scoured the internet and found the creator's Twitter page. His name is Payam. His last tweet was posted in 2019, and I hope he's doing okay. But wait, it says this is his old account. Let's follow the link to his new account. It turns out his last tweet there was in 2016. Unfortunately, it seems this guy has completely disappeared from the internet, taking the answer to this mystery with him. Until he returns, I'm afraid we'll be left wondering about the true nature of that haunting image. We can only speculate whether this image is real or just a staged creation. At one point, I thought it resembled an edited version of Girl with a Pearl Earring. But when you compare them side by side, the angle isn't quite right. The next story caught my eye a long time ago in the comments under my previous videos, but since it's pretty short, I didn't have a place to include it until now. Japan is famous for many things, but one thing that's undeniably Japanese is the abundance of vending machines. You can find them everywhere, in any alley, from bustling cities to small villages. Unfortunately, when something works well, there's always someone who wants to ruin it. That's the story of a serial killer who operated using vending machines. In April 1985, in the city of Fukuyama, a 45-year-old man found a free bottle of soda in a vending machine. Thinking it was a bonus, he took it home and drank it with pleasure. That decision proved fatal. He soon experienced severe stomach cramps and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors discovered he had ingested paraquat, a highly toxic substance. Even a small amount of paraquat can lead to a painful death. And sadly, that's exactly what happened to him. Just 5 months later, in September, the same fate befell another person. He bought a bottle of Oronomin C from a vending machine and found a second bottle in the dispensing slot. After drinking both, he died 2 days later. Once again, paraquat was found in his system. This led authorities to suspect the deaths were intentional, not accidental. Some even believed the victims had deliberately consumed paraquat to end their lives, as such cases weren't uncommon in Japan. Vending machines were still considered safe, but that changed when the second victim died. It became clear this wasn't an isolated incident. The killer had tested his method and now knew it worked. The stakes were about to rise. You might wonder why both victims drank from what seemed like forgotten bottles left for free in the dispensing slot. It's a bit strange, right? The answer lies in a promotional campaign by Oronomin C. If you bought a bottle from a vending machine, there was a chance a second bottle would be dispensed for free. This campaign created a pay-it-forward culture, where someone who didn't want the extra soda would leave it for the next person. Unfortunately, the killer decided to exploit this. Just 1 day after the second victim's death, another person consumed a deadly drink. The deaths kept piling up, and Japan's once trusted vending machines became a source of fear for residents. A 22-year-old man from the city of Matsuka bought a popular drink, a bottle of real gold, and found a second bottle in the vending machine. Naturally, he didn't suspect the second bottle was poisoned, but this time with a different toxic substance, cyanide. He died 2 days later. After this, there were 8 more cases of deaths from poisoned soda bought in vending machines. These incidents drew significant media attention, and people began avoiding vending machines with snacks and drinks. The government started placing warning labels on all vending machines across the country, urging people not to drink from abandoned bottles. The manufacturer of Aronoman C replaced their screw-on caps with more secure ones, and the public became much more cautious about the dangers of discarded drinks. The last victim was a 17-year-old girl, and after her death, the poisonings abruptly stopped, possibly due to increased public vigilance or some other reason. During the investigation, detectives first had to confirm that all the poisonings were the work of a single person. As mentioned, all victims were killed with drinks laced with paraquat, except for one, the third victim, who was poisoned with cyanide. This was the only inconsistency in the killer's method. Otherwise, his actions were remarkably consistent, too consistent to be the work of multiple people. For example, the killer only left poisoned bottles in quiet locations without security cameras. He placed them in vending machines scattered across the country and clearly had no connection to the people whose lives he took. No witnesses ever saw him leave his deadly concoctions. He never tried to contact the police to boast about his actions, nor did he leave notes to taunt the victims' families or make demands. He left no DNA evidence for forensic analysis and stopped his spree before becoming reckless, never striking again. In short, he was extremely careful, making the investigation nearly impossible. The killer's identity remains a mystery, as does his motive for killing so many random, innocent people. Some speculate that the vending machine murders were committed not by a man, but by a woman who specifically targeted men. The fact that 11 out of 12 victims were men can't be a coincidence. Aronoman C was marketed specifically to male consumers, and most of the vending machines the killer targeted were in so-called salaryman districts, near offices where men predominantly worked. The sudden halt in poisonings after the woman's death might also be significant. Perhaps the killer felt they made a mistake and decided to stop before accidentally taking another woman's life. But this is just one theory. Others suggest the killer could have been a university student on break, which might explain how they traveled across the country and why the killings stopped when students returned to school. Ultimately, we don't know who was behind this, and since the statute of limitations expired in 2000, we almost certainly never will. Most likely, the killer is still out there, walking Japan's streets lined with vending machines. It makes you wonder what they feel each time they pass one. Guilt or satisfaction? Let me know if you like this video format, and don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed it.